entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Hi, welcome to Getting the Edge. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Really excited to be with you today on a lovely Thursday. And we are, as always, or as we have been recently, in the Genghis Khan restaurant at 3114 West Beta Bay in South Tampa. If you're in the South Tampa area and looking for something unique to do for different or something different, check it out. Delicious Mediterranean cuisine, and the owner, Ergen Tech, who's become a great friend of the Edge family, is the owner. He's involved in a lot of great things in the community, including his foundation, Feed in Need. If you're looking for someplace new to donate and give back, perhaps even volunteer, check out Feed in Need for the Tampa Bay community. Again, Getting the Edge, really excited to be here today with you. Getting the Edge is a great opportunity to bring in business owners like Robert here today. We'll get to Robert in just a second. Great opportunity to bring in business owners in the community to talk about their products and services, but not only that, it's a great opportunity to get to know them. We want to get to know them personally and learn from their trials and tribulations and their successes and their journeys. So that's what this opportunity is all about. So really excited again to be here. If you have not yet, please check out our latest issue of Edge Business Magazine. You can go to the website edgebusinessmagazine.com and you can subscribe today. So anyway, we are here. We have a great show planned for you. Robert Lawrence, who is the owner of Depth Perception, a dive center in Tampa Bay, is our guest today. So thank you so much for joining us today, Robert. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that. You know, this year, one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is implementing more balance into my life. I think I don't really do New Year resolutions. I do New Year intentions. And it's definitely something that I intend to do through the year. As business owners, we work so much. And it's very important for us to try to implement a balance somewhere and have hobbies and interests and things. And I think diving could potentially be one of those. And I think it's really cool. So that's another reason I think it's really great that you're here and a part of Edge. We look forward to having you included in the next issue and hopefully spreading some information and intrigue about the dive world that really appeals to a lot of business owners in the community.
Well, diving can certainly be.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, diving can certainly be therapeutic. Many of our wounded warriors learn to dive just so they can relax. The ones that suffer post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Right.
It's very, very therapeutic for them. It's very relaxing, and in that manner, you're absolutely correct. It brings tremendous balance to their lives.
I can imagine it would. And I do think it's important. I think for so many years we work really hard to build our businesses, and it never really stops, but we all have to come to a certain point where we realize it's most beneficial for our businesses, for our staff, if we all have balance. And I think, identifying a hobby or, even just something that really interests us is something that we all need to consider.
Balance is very important in our lives. All work and no fun doesn't work.
Right. It eventually catches up with you. So tell us a little bit about Depth Perception. You are located, you're on Gandy Blvd, right? 4015?
4015 West Gandy.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the dive center. How long have you been in the Tampa area?
I've been in the Tampa area since 1990.
Okay. The dive center has been?
The dive center has been in operation since 1994.
Okay.
I am the third owner of Depth Perception. It went into business in Brandon, 1994. The previous owners bought it and moved it to another location in Brandon. And then when I bought it, we moved it to South Tampa.
Okay. And I think when you and I originally met, it's been quite a few years ago now, you were originally on Kennedy Boulevard, and then from there you've moved over the last few years to then Gandy.
When I first bought the shop, we thought that the Kennedy location would be an excellent location. But it didn't, not that it was a bad location, the parking was difficult.
Right.
It's hard to get in and out.
Trial and error, kind of like what we talk about all the time. You don't really know until you make the move, and then
you have to find what works for you.
Right,
And
right.
so anyway, we had the opportunity to come to South Gandy or to West Gandy. Excellent parking, high visibility, lots of traffic. It's worked out very well for us.
You are just west of Del Mabry, right there, Del Mabry Highway, and it's very right across from iHeartRadio.
We're right across from iHeartRadio, about halfway between Del Mabry and Lois.
And you have, so tell us a little bit about the different functions of the depth perception. You have retail sales, you do rentals as well, right? And you also have Scuba certification. Tell us a little bit about, the retail sales piece of it.
Well, we sell, we're authorized dealers for several manufacturers, for Halcyon, Cressy, Ziegel, Hewish Outdoors. We sell several different brands of equipment. We have several, we have higher quality brands, and then we have
So something for everybody's budget.
we have something for everybody. If we have something to fit everyone's budget, is what I'm trying to say, I suppose.
Okay.
So if we can, if you're looking for scuba gear, we can probably meet your budget.
Okay. What about scuba certifications? What is that process like?
Well, scuba certification starts with doing your classroom work. You can either do it through e-learning online, or you can do it classwork through the classroom. Most people prefer to do e-learning nowadays.
Okay. And is that so many hours?
It depends. Usually 10 to 12 hours for an adult.
Okay.
Child slightly longer, but people prefer to do their study at home and in private.
Right. And then there's so that's part of it, I guess. So the e-learning, and then they do it actually in the water.
We do the e-learning, and after the e-learning, we bring them into the store itself, and we have a classroom session. That classroom session lasts approximately 4 hours.
Okay.
And we actually introduce them to the gear, explain the gear, how it works, how to put it together, how to take it apart. We talk about dive management, dive safety. We really stress dive safety. We also talk about dive physics. We just generally, we want to know what they know so we can fill in the blanks.
Well, and I thought with you being on the show today, this would be a great opportunity to really, learn about diving. I'm very curious because it's something I have not done, and I am all about conquering fears as I get older. And I will admit, diving is something that has kind of scared me in the past. And I think we've talked a little bit about it. Goes, I think, back to having a lung disease when I was in earlier in high school, histoplasmosis, which not many people have ever even heard of, but it is something that constricts your breathing. And so that, and I remember years ago I was in Jamaica and thought I would attempt to dive then, and went through like a pre-certification, quick thing at the resort, and one of the questions they asked was, are you claustrophobic? And I immediately said yes, because I do have a fear of not being able to breathe, and I don't like tight spaces. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, so it became a great excuse not to dive. But, over time, it would be something, that I would like to do. So I just thought this would be a great opportunity, because I'm sure there are other people out there as well that might have concerns. So talking about some of the safety precautions and the steps that you take, I thought would be very helpful through this. So you mentioned scuba certification, and you mentioned the safety aspect of it. Like, what goes into that piece of it?
Well, first of all, to be a scuba instructor or a dive master or even a learning assistant, you go through a lot of training. We learn to tailor the course to the student's needs. Just like what you have told me about your past history, I would tailor that course step by step to address your needs or possibly even your fears. So we would go down that road. We would start in a pool session. The water is nice and clear. You can see forever, and we would
kind of start.
We would start little baby steps.
Baby steps are good.
maybe in 3 or 4 foot deep water,
right,
with your mask, with your breathing, where you would build confidence with your gear, where you understand, I can breathe underwater.
Part of it, right.
I can breathe underwater. I can see underwater. I can function as well underwater as I can above water. And once people understand that, that's 50% of the battle right there.
And what I liked from when we've talked with some of the conversations is that I kind of thought maybe when you initially start, you're in like with a snorkel gear or something to get you, but no, you're really going in with a tank and with the gear. Is that right?
Well, we actually do snorkel gear.
Okay.
We actually train you how to use snorkel gear, because that learning to clear the snorkel learns you how to clear your regulator. So we start with that first. Build confidence with that first, teach you how to clear your mask on the snorkel first, because if you can do that, it's much easier on your gear. After we do that, then we actually put you in scuba gear, and we kind of do the same thing.
Right.
So if you've got confidence here, that's going to build more confidence. So everything we do is designed step by step is to build confidence and make you feel good about yourself.
Right, and I actually think that would be very helpful, because I would assume once you have you've gained some familiarity with the equipment, then you're going to be a lot more comfortable.
Well, you are. It's not natural to breathe underwater.
Right, it's not natural.
It's not natural. It's counterintuitive, because when most people dive under the water, what do? You hold your breath.
Right.
Now then, we're telling you, Kelly, you have to breathe.
Right.
And that's not intuitive. So once that becomes intuitive, and once you get comfortable, and once you understand that you get more air than you can actually breathe, if you need it, that's the battle is won. And that's how we do it. We do it step by step, little baby steps, step by step, to build confidence in you, the student.
Now, through that certification class, then, are you limited to what you can do from there? Does it depend on, do the dives, are they dependent on how many hours you have? Or you can pretty much do whatever you want once you have the understanding?
Well,
or
the
experience.
The course is skill driven.
Okay.
So I might have 4 students, but I may be doing 4 mini courses inside that course. So with you, it's skill driven. It's what you need. So when you pass this skill test, we move to the other skills. And when you pass this one, we move to this one. And so when you master those skills in the pool, then we say, Kelly, we want you to come and do dives 1 and 2 in open water with us.
I can take the floaties off, right?
That's right.
I'm probably gonna drive some expert divers crazy, kind of asking some of these questions. But there are a lot of us that I think would be great for us to know. So don't go away. We'll be right back. More with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TruLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Excited to be here learning all about scuba diving and everything from Depth Perception Dive Center and Gandy, Robert Lawrence. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I know as you're watching the show, you see some of the commercials that air in between the breaks that we take. We would love to feature your business in those commercials. So definitely reach out to us, info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. We'd be happy to talk about how your business can be featured through the show. So let's get back. We were talking about my fears in diving and just the certification process, and then how if we talked about 4 hours in the classroom and then a few hours then in the water learning through snorkeling gear and then to the dive gear. And then so at that point then I can dive. I can go out with everybody.
Not quite. We're not ready yet.
Okay.
So after the pool session, we have to go do 4 open water dives. So we will do 2 dives one day and then 2 dives the next day. Each day we take those skills that we've learned in the pool, and that's a practical application of those skills. So we do all those skills again on open water dives 1 and 2. We just do them deeper.
Okay.
We combine skills. We combine mask clearing skills, regulator retrieval skills. We work on fin techniques. We work on things that you and I have to know as a diver to be a competent diver. So that's basically what we're teaching you at that point. When you bring you to open water, we've decided Kelly can do it, but now then we need to go and take her, and we need to do this. Do these skills in open water and build her confidence and build her skill level and bring her to a point where she can actually go out and do a dive by herself. That
makes a lot more sense. That even makes me feel even better, because I guess the biggest fear too I have is then freaking out and getting in it, and not only that, I'm sure you're diving, you have quite a few people with you, and then you get down and then all of a sudden you're getting inside your head and being, freaking out, I guess would probably be the greatest, and then obviously you don't want to disappoint others. You don't want to have to come up. You don't want to bother other people when they're trying to do their, enjoy their day. But I think with some of the open water dives, you would eliminate that happening, because hopefully I would freak out there, right, if I'm going to.
Well, it's a class, and everybody makes mistakes in classes. So, and that's what it's for. You never learn until you make a mistake, right?
Well, it's true. We learn more from our mistakes than we do.
We learn more from our mistakes. We have to understand, though, in diving, that we have to be a thinking diver. We can't follow our intuition, because things that are intuitive underwater are actually counterintuitive and can cause us pain. It can end badly for us. So we don't want that. So during the entire course, we will talk about things that you want to do and things that you don't want to do, how you handle this situation, how you handle that situation. The main thing that we teach is to be calm, think about what's going on, and think about how you're going to fix it. And that's what divers do. They think about what's happening to them. How am I going to fix this? Is it going to require my buddy to help me? I'm going to let my buddy know. And my buddy is going to assist me. Maybe Robert's going to help you. Maybe my dive master Sam is going to help you. But the overall riding concern that we have is our divers thinking about what's happening to them and fixing it underwater and not making a mistake.
That's a lot. But for expert divers and experienced, I'm sure it's not.
Well, everyone has their level of comfort. New divers obviously don't have as the level of comfort that maybe I have.
Right.
And so we have to understand, we have to teach from your perspective. A good instructor understands his students' concerns, or fears even.
Right.
And we teach from that perspective to let you understand that your fears are just that. They're fears, they're not
Right.
facts.
No, and that's why I think as I begin to conquer this fear of mine, I think depth perception, and Robert, you would be, don't even, there's no way I would go with anyone else. I mean, you definitely, you have the times that we've talked, and your dedication to your students and to the dive center have shown me that you're a man that could be trusted, and that I would put my hands in your, or put my life in your hands, so to speak, because you kind of are. I mean, you've got it. This is really, we talk about trust in business. I mean, this is That's a
great point. And I ask people all the time, if you're going to have your heart worked on,
right.
if you're seeking a heart surgeon, are you going to call around and find the cheapest heart surgeon that you can find?
Right.
Or are you going to find the very best?
The very best.
I don't know about you, but I'm finding the best guy.
Right, absolutely.
And the same way with diving, because basically you're putting your lives in my hands, and that's not something I take lightly.
Right.
I really take that seriously, and I'm really passionate about the people, the divers that I turn out.
And that's, part of one of the things with Edge, and while we're here, we are a big family and a big community, and in everyone that we have in, we're referring out, and having you, we're very happy to have you a part of the Edge family.
Thank you.
Going back to, I am a little crazy, but you kind of have to be a business owner. I say that in a very fun way, but, I've talked a little bit about, I am a little claustrophobic, but years ago in the late 90s, and I was getting married. We were actually in Jamaica. I think I've told you this story once. And right the day before the wedding, my soon-to-be husband at the time, he went for a dive. And this was when I tried to do the certification, and then I didn't get it because of my claustrophobic. Anyway, he dove, and apparently he had just bought a new mask, and he wore a mask, and he went out, and apparently he had his mask on too tight. So he got mask squeeze, which I think a lot of expert divers know what that means. So when he came back and got off the boat and they came back to the resort, he busted every blood vessel in his eyes. I looked like I was marrying a demon. I shouldn't say that, never mind. It was scary, very scary. I was very thankful I wasn't there. But so I've kind of have that. Obviously, he made a big mistake going down, and now he even can reflect back on what he did wrong. But at the time, it was really scary. So I think that is kind of in part of my brains, but I don't think that is something that happens very often. And he should have never bought that new mask, from what I understand, prior to taking that dive.
In his defense, it probably wasn't his fault. It probably was his instructor's fault for not explaining beforehand how to alleviate a mask squeeze.
Oh.
Maybe the mask was too tight.
Right.
The instructor should have shown him how snug the mask should be on his face. The instructor should have also told him, if you feel your mask sucking to your face, blow out through your nose, and that alleviates that squeeze. So apparently he didn't know that. So in his defense, maybe it wasn't his fault.
Yeah. Well, good to know. Goodness, you should see some of the wedding photos from that event. It was really funny.
Well, that can be serious.
Yes, it was. I forget now. Someone had recommended, I don't know, I want to say lemon juice or lime juice or something that helped kind of heal those vessels in his eyes, and it did heal up, and he was fine. But it was scary. It was definitely a scary time.
It was.
But that kind of goes back to the security then, or regulations of how well, I guess, trained dive instructors are at resorts when you go out across the world, which is probably one of the best reasons why it's so great to travel with your dive team. Right?
Yes, and I'm not trying to sound negative, but at these dive resorts in the Caribbean and places like this, they're taught to turn and burn divers. You probably won't get the in-depth instruction there as probably you're going to get here in Tampa.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
And
100% agree with that.
Just the sort of thing that happened to the gentleman you're speaking about. I hear that and I see that, and divers come into my shop and say, I got my card in the Caribbean and I don't think I know how to dive.
That's scary.
That really happens. And they say, can you teach me how to dive? And I say, yes. So we're very anal about what we do. We teach you how to, your mask strap, and that's the first thing, going back to the mask, we tell people, your mask strap is not a clamp, it's a strap. So it's intuitive to clamp the mask, to tighten it as tight as you can get to keep it from leaking. But that's wrong, because the deeper you go in the water column, the water pushes against your mask and pushes it tighter, more tightly to your face. So on the surface, you just want it snug, because if you get it too tight, you're going to have a continual, you can't even alleviate it. You'll have a continual.
I can only imagine
so we
how tight that must have been to bust all the blood vessels.
He had it really, really tight. Wow. He had it really, really tight. So, but that's the kind of instruction at depth perception we want
Absolutely right.
We're going to give each of our students. We're going to take time before we ever go in the pool, and we're going to fit your mask, and we're going to tell you how to wear it, and we're going to get it adjusted to where it fits your face correctly. It even starts with a mask fitting. Not every mask fits every face.
Right.
So you have a very unique face. We all do. We're all unique. A mask that would fit you will not fit me. So it's very important that we fit you with the correct mask that you're going to be comfortable in. Because if your mask is uncomfortable, you're going to be uncomfortable. So it even goes to it goes back, every little detail needs to be attended to. And if it's not, then you're not going to have a happy diver.
How many people dive like on a daily basis all over the world? Do you have any idea, like statistically, like?
I read a number a couple of years ago, probably 1.5 million dives per day worldwide.
1.5 million dives per day worldwide.
Worldwide.
That is amazing.
It's amazing.
And and I see why. I mean, you see some of the photos, which is one of the things that intrigues me about diving. I mean, first of all, we always look for that peace, and being mindful and in the moment. And when you're diving, what else can you be? All the beautiful photos that come from the water. It's a complete other world. So I want to talk a lot more about that and some of the places that you've been. So don't go away. We'll be right back with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TruLieve on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being here today. We are Getting the Edge with Robert Lawrence, who is the owner of Depth Perception, a dive center here in Tampa Bay, learning all about, well, for me, conquering my fears of diving. And again, we talked briefly about just how diving is really another world, and all of the beautiful imagery that comes from just that, wow. So you don't have words for it. Really, it's a whole nother world, and it just looks beautiful. So, and we kind of talked about with that and being in another world, you have to take precautions. And that's why at Depth Perception, you take people through all the necessary steps to make sure that they're certified. If you missed any part of the show, make sure you go back and check out the beginning. We kind of talked a little bit about resorts and just why training and getting certified through Depth Perception could be very beneficial for you. So tell us a little bit about being a full-service premier NAUI. What is that? What is NAUI?
NAUI is the National Association of Underwater Instructors. We are the oldest instruction organization in the United States, the second oldest in the world, as a matter of fact. We are a performance-driven organization. Actually, NAUI is a 501c organization.
Okay.
So NAUI is member owned. So our members elect members being instructors and dive masters.
Oh, very nice.
We elect our leaders. So we have that flexibility that if our leadership is not doing what we like, we vote them out.
Right.
So, but NAUI is highly respected worldwide. Our standards are the highest there are. And as an NAUI instructor, when we go on dive boats and they say, "Are you PADI? Are you this organization?" And I say, "My divers are NAUI," and they say, "Oh, okay, you'll be okay."
Oh, good.
And I've had boat owners and live aboard captains tell me that. So that makes me feel good to be a NAUI instructor and a NAUI member.
Very cool. That's even more reassuring. And, let's see, we talked about 4015 West Gandy Boulevard. Make sure you can stop by anytime and check out Depth Perception. Well, not anytime. What are your basic hours that you're open there?
Our basic hours we're closed Sunday and Monday. We're open from 12 noon until 7 p.m. Tuesday through Friday. Saturday, we're open from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. But just to be honest, we don't close until the customers are gone. So there's been many days when customers come in that we stay. I've been there at 9 p.m. before.
Well, you can check out depthperception.com, and you do have a full retail sales there, rental and service of the dive gear. What's the best, honestly? Oh, I guess it probably would depend on how often someone is going to dive, but what are some of the benefits of buying versus renting your dive gear?
Some of the benefits of buying are who wore your gear last.
Right.
You know who had your regulator in their mouth last. To me, and I tell all my divers, that's a sanitary issue. But honestly, if you have your own gear, it's like slipping into a pair of comfortable shoes. You know what to expect. You know how it's going to feel.
Right. You
become more comfortable with it, and actually that allows you to become a better diver.
Right.
So owning your own gear,
that makes sense.
It makes sense if you're diving enough times a year to justify that.
Wow. And okay, just going back, I asked you before the break how many people are diving daily, and what did you say statistically what the numbers were?
Worldwide, it's like 1.5 million, something like that.
On a regular basis, that's a lot of divers. So we talked a little bit too about your the dive club that you can be a part of, and some of the things that you have upcoming. And I know we've talked before in all the amazing places you've been all over the world diving and taking part of the students and your dive club from here in Tampa. You have one coming up in the Keys in April 27th and 28th. So can people still get involved in that?
We do. We typically our Keys trips are geared towards our young divers.
Okay.
They're nice, easy 40-foot dives. We go down there and we dive with a dive center down there that we've been diving with probably for the last 20 years. And they understand what we need, and we want to take our young divers down there, introduce them to Key Largo, to some nice, easy dives, build their confidence, and let them see that part of the world that maybe they haven't seen yet. The corals, the brain corals, the vase corals, all the different sea life that you don't see in the springs.
Right. And you mentioned that's 40 foot. You said 40, 45, something like that. So that is for beginners. When you talk about like your expert divers, how far are they going down?
Well, there's different levels of expertise. Right. Some cave divers go down to 350 feet and they may stay there, quite honestly, 7 or 8 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But they're doing like 2 days of decompression on the back end of the dive. So most, when we say advanced recreational dives, we're saying 130, 140, 150, something like that.
So 2 days of advanced decompression, what does that mean? Like they're decompressing before they can come up, like they're coming up slowly.
They're having to rid their body of the nitrogen that they've absorbed doing that 8 hours at 300 feet.
Wow.
So it takes a long time. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of skill, and there are only a few divers in the world, actually, most of them here in Florida, that do these kind of long exploration grade dives. So these guys are diving rebreathers. They've got a team that sets up all of their dives. These guys are in their own universe, and most recreational divers never see a dive of that kind of a dive.
Wow. Okay. It's just amazing to me. That's like some of those movies, I guess, that you see where people are working like underwater and doing different things. And I don't know. I can't think offhand of some of the movies, but it's intense.
These guys are the premier divers in the world. Right. They're right here in Florida. They live here in Tampa. Some of them live in Tampa. Some of them live a little bit north of here, up around Gainesville. But these guys are writing the book as they go, right, on decompression diving.
So 40 foot approximately in the dive world isn't anything. I mean, that is, well, I mean, it is obviously, but not compared to.
Well, if you're trained properly, that's a nice, in the Keys, nice clear water dive. You can look up, you can see the surface.
Oh, nice.
You can see the waves on the surface. It's a nice, easy dive, and typically it's not how deep you are. It's not how deep you are. It's what you're seeing at that particular depth. So those dives there on those reef dives, it's all about the enjoyment of interacting with the fish, with the turtles. You'll see nurse sharks. You'll see the beautiful brain corals. You'll see the swim-throughs under the coral. You'll see eels. You'll see everything. You'll see everything, and as you're looking at the end of the dive, you're looking, oh, I got to go, but I don't want to.
Right. Well, that makes me feel better that you said it's not really about how the depth that you are. It's really about what's around you at the different levels. So so that kind of helps my frame of mind as far as not thinking that it's all about how far you're going to go down.
We always have to be aware, as a diver, we always have to be aware of our depth. But we're not going to take you. We're not going to take you or any of our young divers into a situation where it would be too deep of a dive. We're going to take you to nice, easy 20, 30, and 40 foot shallow depth dives that you can build your confidence, have a great time, and still want more.
During maybe pre-show, we were talking a little bit about, you were talking about like your shark experience. Have you had some experiences with, tell us a little bit about that, or if you've had some experiences with interesting beings in the water with you? We've seen
the more you dive, the more you're going to see.
Right.
So the more time you spend underwater, the more great things you're going to see.
And you've been diving for over 20 years. Like even, how many years did we
I've been diving since 1971.
Wow.
So one of the most memorable dives I've ever done is the shark dives off the west coast of Mexico, the islands of Guadalupe. And they basically take you out. You go out of San Diego, and they throw a cage in the water. And you jump in the water. You spend an hour out, an hour in. And
In the cage.
In the cage.
Okay.
Absolutely, in the cage. And basically what you're looking at, you're looking for great whites, and they swim up. They swim up, and they'll bump the cage, and they're very inquisitive. And
Wow.
I have a picture of a great white. I was telling you earlier that the great white came up and opens its mouth, and I got a snapshot right down its maw, and I'm thinking this thing could swallow me and it wouldn't even know I'm in
And
there.
thank goodness I'm in this cage.
Yeah,
right?
thank goodness I'm in that cage. But yeah, you see, as you're diving, you'll see even octopus. You'll see octopus. You'll see whale sharks. I've seen mullamulas in the water, ocean sunfish. So you'll see all these wonderful things that, honestly, a lot of people never have the
Right.
opportunity to see. And by diving, has afforded me to go to places that I probably never would have had the opportunity to go if it weren't for diving.
Wow. And you're going, a lot of the times you're picking your vacations in a sense of the dive and what you're going to be able to do dive-wise while you're there.
We do. We go to places maybe like Roatan or maybe Bonaire, and we pick them not only for diving, but what we can do for shore excursions also.
Right.
Zip line. I love to zip line.
Oh, wow.
I'm a zip liner. I love to zip line.
That would be fun.
So we try to
So
make
where have
it
you zip lined?
Roatan,
Okay.
Dominica. Great zip lines on Dominica. I love that. But yeah, we've Belize has wonderful zip lining.
Oh, I bet it does. That looks absolutely beautiful. I've not been there, but I would love to someday. Zip line, now that's above the water and right up my alley. I think that'd be just absolutely fun.
Oh, I love it.
And well, then it goes back into safety and regulations and with all of those, but those, obviously that's there, you wouldn't be doing those, right?
Well, that's true. You're not going to exert yourself too greatly when you've been diving, right? Because
Right.
that's a bad thing to do. You want to do things that are easy, and you want to do things that are fun, and you don't want to go on long, hard hikes and stuff like that,
Right.
where you get really hot and things like that. That's not a good thing to do while you're diving during the week. So
Okay.
you want to pick easy things to do.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk more with Robert when we come back. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TruLeave on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us today. We've had a great day learning all about diving. If you have, well, even if you don't have any interest, if you do or you don't, just look into it at depthperception.com. I think even those that may not have thought about it, once you find out a little bit more and check out website and Facebook, I think you'll find it very intriguing and very safe. Definitely check out our website, edgebusinessmagazine.com. Please go on and you can subscribe to our to the magazine, and you can get all of them delivered, print and digital, right to your email or your home or office. So definitely pick up a latest copy of Edge Business Magazine. Again, Getting the Edge, really excited to be here with you every week, telling great stories about great business owners and leaders in our community. And again, it's not just about sharing and talking about business and services. We really want to get to know them, which is kind of what we're going to do with Robert a little bit now, and get a chance to talk with them a little more. And again, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like your business featured, give us a call or email us at info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. So again, it's depthperception.com. You can find out the information about Depth Perception and more about Robert Lawrence. They are located at 4015 West Gandy Boulevard. Before we went to break, we talked about an upcoming, so the dive club that you have a trip coming up in April. That is April 27th and 28th in the Keys. So there's still room for people to get involved with that.
It's availability.
And also you're going to Bonaire, which I had to ask is right outside. You mentioned Venezuela. That is in October. You have that coming up. So tell us a little bit about that trip and how that's different maybe than the Keys.
Well, Bonaire is known as shore diving paradise. It's
shore diving
paradise.
Okay.
It's one of the Netherlands Antilles. It's one of the ABC islands: Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao.
Okay.
So Bonaire itself is the middle island, about 50 miles off the coast of Venezuela. It is one of the premier diving destinations in the world. It has wonderful, beautiful reefs. It has the reef life is just amazing, and they have what they call in Bonaire the dive and drive packages, where you
dive and drive.
Okay. You rent a room. They give you a truck, and then you go through, pick up your tanks, and then go dive. So all their dive locations are marked with yellow rocks and the name of the location. So I've been going to Bonaire since probably 1998. I never get tired of going.
Wow.
I never get tired of going because you just never get tired of seeing the abundance of the fish life and enjoying the dives and enjoying the people, and it's a great dive destination. We're going this year. Our trip is corresponding with a secondary coral spawn. In 2002, I was down there and actually witnessed the coral spawn.
What does that mean? Coral?
The coral actually spawns.
Okay.
It shoots out little bubbles, basically, of sperm.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And all of a sudden the water's getting milky, and you're going like, what's up with that? And then I realized, well, this is why we came to see the coral spawn. So that's the only time.
You learn something new every day.
Before or since, coral spawns every year. In Bonaire, they have the major coral spawn, and then the secondary spawn, the first full moon in October. So we're hoping we can replicate that.
Wow. Okay, that's really, really interesting. I never even thought of, but I guess coral is alive.
Coral is a living animal.
Right. Wow.
It's not rocks, it's a living animal.
That's interesting. I have to do some research on that one. No, great. Again, we talked a little bit earlier about my, apprehensions with diving. So every time I talk with you, make me a little more comfortable, and definitely look forward to pursuing. Again, we talked about just business owners needing balance, and I definitely think diving can take you to a whole other world and help you be in the moment. So highly recommend reaching out to Depth Perception and Robert and just looking into it. If you're not already a diver, see what you can do about getting certified to do so. Well, let's talk about you a little bit. Where did you grow up? You definitely have a Southern accent. So Where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in Arkansas.
Okay.
Just south of Little Rock. I worked for Reynolds Metals Company. and being promoted and moving around, I wound up in Richmond, wound up in Bristol, Virginia, at some of their locations, and I wound up here in Tampa at the Tampa can plant, and that's where I retired from. I love Tampa. I love the ocean. I love, this is Dive Central here in Florida. If you want to be a diver, you want to be in Florida.
Really? And then we mentioned your first dive was in 1971, right? I think we talked about.
It was.
Right.
It was.
That's amazing. So you've been diving. I'm trying to think. Okay, how old am I? Well, we're almost there. Wow. So you've been diving a really long time. So I mean, who best to kind of go with and know that they're looking out for you is somebody with that's been diving 47 years.
Back in the day, it was different than it is now, because I had a friend that said, "Hey, you want to learn how to dive?" I've told you this story, and it's not unique, it's not unusual. But I had a friend that said, "Hey, you want to learn how to dive?" Sure. I said, "Sure, that sounds great."
Okay.
So we go to Little Rock, buy all the stuff, drive over to Lake Ouachita in western Arkansas, and he said, "Okay, this is how you put it together, and this is how you breathe, and this is how you turn your air on, and oh yeah, you might need to equalize your ears at some point." I said, "Is that all I need to know?" He said, "Yeah, let's go diving." So we we went diving, and so I dove I was diving for 5 years without even a certification card. I don't recommend that.
Right.
But back 50 years ago, it was just it was different world.
Right, I bet it was. Well, and it's just like we don't realize that everything's bad for us until years later, right? When all the warning labels come on everything. So I mean, it's the same thing. Years ago, life was just totally different. Did you ever think you'd own your own dive shop?
No, it never occurred to me that I would. But
did you know that you might want to own your own business someday? Did you kind of have that inkling growing up?
Well, I knew that my passion was diving, and my passion was all about diving. And at some point, I realized my passion was teaching people how to dive.
You seem so patient.
And well, you have to be patient to be a good instructor.
Right.
And you have to understand your students. If you do not understand your students, you can't be a good instructor.
Right.
Have to understand them. You have to.
Well, and I've had the pleasure of talking to you quite a bit, and again, I was really excited to have you involved with Edge, and so we've just really had, and I guess because I'm so inquisitive, and I've had a lot of questions, but every question I've had, you've taken, I've probably asked you more than once, the questions, and you've just been, you've been really patient and understanding, and I mean, you have to be, like you mentioned, and that's what makes you such a great instructor.
It's all about patience, and I could take you and make you a diver. But you have to be patient also, and you have told me some of your fears and some of your concerns, and you've been very, very upfront about that. So we would take that knowledge and we would tailor that course to allay those fears and concerns. And I think you could come out, and I think honestly that we can make a diver out of you.
Well, that gives me hope. I appreciate that. And I'm all about conquering fears, and you have definitely eased my concerns. So I appreciate that. And if I'm going to do it, I wouldn't do it anywhere other than depth perception. So let me ask, do you have what is best advice you've ever been given? I mean, I get some of my favorite questions in before we run out of time. So did somebody give you advice one day that just stood out, that has just impacted you?
I had my mentor that I considered my mentor. He always told me, listen to what people tell you.
That's great advice.
A lot of people hear,
right,
but not every people listen. He said, listen to what your students tell you.
That is great advice. Are there any resources that you enjoy reading? And is there anything in particular, not necessarily even just dive related, but is there anything, I don't know, are there sites, websites, books, anything that you enjoy reading more than others?
I'm a child of the 60s, so I love everything NASA. I love to read about, I've just finished reading Al Worden's, the command module pilot for Apollo 15 falling to Earth. I love to read Michael Collins' book, Carrying the Fire. I like to read, I've read Dances with Wolves, but I like to read things like that just to... Just to absorb myself into that little universe.
Yeah. I just watched The First Man Is that that was actually
Neil
a really
Armstrong.
good movie. Yes, that was with well, in both. Oh, I can't think of her name, that plays in The Crown on Netflix. She played the wife of Neil Armstrong, and Ryan Gosling, I think that's who it is, played
He played Neil Armstrong. Yeah.
But wow, that was actually a really good movie. Just another kind of insight into how things were back then. But,
Gripping times.
Right.
Every American was glued to their TV. Every
That's
flight,
amazing.
we were glued to our TV.
Right. Wow. I can only imagine, you know, being in that time and going through what they've been through and then losing the people they lost. But anyway, that's, well, okay, last question, I guess. What is your definition of success today?
From a dive shop perspective?
Well, just from a business owner, from life.
From a business owner perspective, my definition of success is if I make a positive change in your life. If I can make a positive change in my student's life, then I've been successful.
I like that very much. Well, I think, you know, as many people as you have the opportunity to work with, I definitely think you're doing that weekly, if not daily. And as many, you know, diving as long as you have, that's, you know, you've been a pleasure to talk with. You've been a pleasure to know.
Well,
and again, I'm so excited to have you a part of EDGE. And again, look out for Depth Perception. They'll be a part of the next issue of EDGE Business Magazine coming out in March. So again, depthperception.com for all of the information in regards to depth perception. And if you're interested in any of the upcoming dives or getting certified, their direct, what is the direct number there? 813-689?
3483.
3483. You can reach out directly there to Robert at the shop. And again, stop by. You mentioned some of the hours were noon to 7?
Noon till 7 p.m.
Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Friday, and Saturday 11 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Okay, so definitely, again, thank you so much for being here,
Well,
Robert.
thank you for
I
having me.
appreciate it. Again, check out edgebusinessmagazine.com in the meantime, but we'll see you next week with Getting the Edge. Thank you for joining us.